How's it going, everybody? Still here in Barcelona. The sun is setting. Right now we're on a rooftop and it looks just so damn cool. Check this out. Isn't that a cool city? You can see the Mediterranean from here. I'm joined by Taylor. You guys remember Taylor? What's your Beacom of Light?
Beacom of Light.
Yeah, so
youtube.com/Beacom of Light.
There you go. So Taylor is also down here. He's also been here reporting and filming video and things like that. Not a whole lot has been going on with Catalonia and independence. We heard from the king. Many people said he kind of poured gasoline on the fire when he said that what Catalonia is doing is illegal, and kind of sided with, Spain nationalism, which of course he would. Now we're hearing that the chief of the local police force, the Mossos, is going to court for sedition. So there's a lot of things happening that aren't, don't really film on the ground, but there's a concept that I really wanted to talk about and get into, and it has to do with political violence, Antifa. So that's what I'm going to talk with Taylor about today. First, one thing that we're seeing a lot of are signs. Protesters have signs saying no political violence. This is everywhere. And I actually filmed a guy with an Antifa flag waving it at the main protest near the university. No violence though. When the police started attacking one of the schools, a couple people grabbed barricades and tried throwing them in the street, and immediately the entire group started screaming no, like booing, and then rushed up to these people and started screaming get out. They're screaming fora, which is like get out, get out.
Yeah.
So what's your take on this? Have you seen anything? Just, yeah, we'll riff on this.
Well, it seems to me that the Catalan people have a sense of unity, obviously first and foremost, but they also have a sense of civility when they're protesting. And I guess this isn't anything new for the Catalan people. It's been happening for a while. They know that they have a distinctive culture, they have a distinctive language, and they want to be separate, but they want to be part of the EU. So there's this civility that you see with the protests here that you don't see in the US as much.
Do you think that the main reason they're opposing violence then is because they want to be respected by the EU? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's clearly, they're setting an example. I would say if you want to protest and have your voice heard and be organized about it and actually get something done in a democratic, organized fashion that isn't chaotic and unrespectable,
it's a slow process too.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, everybody watching, we're here as a couple of non-experts. Have you ever been here before?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
It's awesome. It's a great city.
Yeah. So take what we say for what it's worth. But what I do want to stress is that I've been around to a ton of protests, and obviously Taylor and I have both covered events with Antifa getting violent. So something really interesting happened. As I was saying, we saw the people stop there was a couple of people tried pulling barricades, and the group immediately stopped them.
Yeah.
There's a video that's been circulating of what people are saying is an infiltrator. Some guy tried to break a window, and they immediately stopped him and started screaming fora, because they don't want any vandalism or violence or destruction. But when it comes to actual violence and attacks, it was the Spanish nationalists that we ended up seeing actually attack somebody. So we were marching. I tweeted about this. I tweeted that I got locked in a Burger King, because that actually happened. I got locked inside Burger King. We saw a group of people with Spanish flags. So these are people who don't want Catalonian independence, and they're marching, when all of a sudden the group turns to a guy on the sidewalk and they start throwing things at him, and they rush up to him. The cops grab him and they pull the guy out and throw him out. And it was kind of startling. When the police made their line, I was gonna try and go around, because a Burger King had two doors, one on this side, one on this side. So I went in one door, and as soon as I went to the other door, the guy was like, no, you're stuck, and they locked me in. But that's besides the point. That's just a stupid, funny story. The anti-fascists here keep their heads down. Yes, they wear masks. Sometimes they come out. We've seen some fights, but for the most part, nobody wants them to get violent, and they don't. And it's actually the nationalists who are starting the fight. I don't want to say all the time, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are nationalists here who are going to say, come on, dude, that's not fair. But we did see nationalists start a fight and attack somebody, and we're seeing the crowds condemn any kinds of vandalism or violence. So it's almost like it's inverted here, right?
Yeah, I think that in the States, what we try and do is we try and map on what's happening in other parts of the world to things that have happened in the U.S. So at least
that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, at least in my experience, I'm trying to occasionally try and find comparisons to make between what is the Antifa of Spain and what is the I don't know, the alt-right of Spain, and
yeah,
it's not different. It's different. It's not as easily explainable or comparable. But
here it's literally what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's tough. Good luck.
There's similarities.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is when it comes to the issue of like independence. It's, as you said, it's been going on for a long time. People here have been waiting years for this, and it's strange to see. You know, it feels like people in Spain don't, at least from what I've heard, again, because I feel there's gonna be a lot of people who say it's not true, but from here, the people I've talked to who are like pro-Spain, they're not really that adamant about what Catalonia is, about the language, about the flag. It seems like the people that I've actually talked to who are pro-Spain, it's like their level of passion for the issue is significantly less, right? First, I talked to a cab driver, and she said, oh, this is stupid, it shouldn't happen. And I asked her what she thought about the whole thing, and she was like, I don't know, I just don't think they should do it. Whereas when you talk to the Catalonian, like the people who are pro-Catalonian independence, they just go off and off, like they're extremely passionate about it. So I don't know, so we can't necessarily compare. There's like something going on.
Yeah, there have been multiple marches and demonstrations all over Barcelona.
Yeah, that's loud.
Yeah, that's super loud.
So we're in a big city. Sirens are normal. But also keep in mind, yesterday was the general strike. So we can talk a little bit about that too, because this is part of it. There was no violence yesterday at the general strike.
Yeah.
There were some fights, but like fights happen when people get drunk, and I don't think it was political. I think it was like two young kids fighting.
Fights happen at Real Madrid games and Barcelona,
exactly.
the football games all the time. So that's
yeah. This guy I was talking to was just like he saw a video of the fighting, and he goes, "No, these kids are the same kids who would fight over a football match."
Yeah,
like
right.
with their, but so here's something interesting. Yesterday, in talking about this comparison of like Antifa in Spain versus the US, there was a group of about 300 Spanish nationalists, and I got warnings from locals saying like, my friends, they were just like, dude, don't go there, they'll attack you. And I was like, what do you mean they'll attack me? And he's like, yeah, they'll just like start attacking people like randomly. And I was like, no, I don't believe that, because, you know, even in the US, the left and the right, like the right doesn't just randomly attack people, but that's where the inversion is. The people here were telling me that the group, and these aren't just like regular like anti-independence, these are just like hardcore Franco dictator, like people with the flags and the eagle on it and all that stuff. And he was like, no, these people, they start fights. And so I'm thinking that's really interesting, because we've seen Antifa attack people unprovoked, and we tend not to see the right in the US attack unprovoked, right? So with these Antifa, these free speech rallies where Antifa attacked, it's usually the right is having an event and Antifa shows up.
Yeah.
But here was the other way around. It was the pro-independence people having their rally, and the right shows up, and people are like, those are the people who start fights, those are the people who get violent, and we actually saw some of that.
Well, you might also see a bit of a crossover with the police and the way the police have been acting here. So there's a video that maybe you posted, Tim, of police in balaclavas taking out the ballot boxes by force. They're ripping the ballot boxes away from one of the booths, the polling areas. I think it was a school or something.
We were in that. It was
school.
Ramon Yule.
Yeah. And I don't know, when I see that happening, my mind explodes. There's so much talk about in the U.S. us having fascism, and the current political regime is fascist and so on. And there are arguments to be made, sure. But when you see a video of balaclava police that look like terrorists, essentially, going in and taking ballot boxes, you see a real deep-rooted fascistic tendency in Europe, more so than you see in the U.S.
I don't want to throw around the word fascist left and right, but this is also part of like this weird inversion. It's kind of like a mirror image, because in the U.S., with these free speech, let me go back. Okay, police have definitely roughed up protesters. Police have definitely, crossed the boundary in terms of violating First Amendment rights and all that for a lot of people with protests throughout the years. Come on, we'll be real, and we're not going to say that every single cop has done a good job. We've seen cops in riot gear in the U.S. do some pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
But over the past year, when it comes to these free speech rallies, the police that we see are typically trying to make sure the rally can happen.
Right.
Look at like Ben Shapiro, for instance. The cops who are outside of UC Berkeley, they're not doing anything. They're actually protecting the right to assemble and speak. Whereas here, the police are breaking windows, storming into buildings, and stealing ballot boxes.
Yeah.
It's the opposite in the U.S. At least for these particular instances. I don't want to act like every protest has been, you know, policed perfectly, but we see the cops outside UC Berkeley, and they're chilling.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of arbitrary attacks. We didn't see the cops just beating random people. They were actually just making sure the violence didn't break out, and sure enough, the violence did not break out. Little scuffles here and there, but for the most part, the Milo free speech 20-minute event, you know, it wasn't a full week, and Ben Shapiro got to do their thing when the police were just there maintaining a presence. It's totally different here, where the police actually come in and shut down the events.
Yeah. Well, I guess the difference is that you have the national police, the federales, if you will. I don't know what they're called.
But that video, that was local police.
Right.
Those were Catalonian police.
Yeah, and wasn't it the federal police protecting the local police to allow them to get out with the ballot boxes?
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff.
It's Spain's national police. So I guess for those, I'll give you a quick recap. In Catalonia, as they're trying to declare independence, right? They vote on independence. They're saying over 90 people are in favor of it. The voter turnout was only 42%.
90%. 90% of 42.
Right.
Yeah.
Voter turnout was 42%, but 90% of those who voted were in favor of it. So the Spanish federal government sent thousands of police, and now we've seen violence. We're seeing it's I don't know. I guess the main thread for this video that I want to talk about is this weird inversion where Antifa is peaceful and the nationalists have been violent. I don't want to say they are the extremely violent because I've only seen a couple instances. Yeah. But that's how the way people explain it to me is it feels like it's flipped.
I think that fascism can be a spectrum, right? But when you see the right wing here, or the nationalists, if you will, actively coming to shut down the other side, that's further along the spectrum towards right-wing fascism.
The people shutting down the polls were literally Spanish nationalists.
Yeah.
It's like, it's flipped. The nationalists in the U.S. aren't the ones going to rallies and shutting the events down.
Yeah, I was, last night, I was at a gathering out front of a state building where the national police were protecting statists that were inside the building, and there were a bunch of Catalonian people outside, and one guy was yelling at one of the local policemen for protecting, so they had the local policemen on the outer perimeter closer to the crowd, and then they had a bunch of national guards out front of the state building, and there was one guy just yelling, smoking his cigarette. I didn't understand him, my Spanish is horrible, but he was yelling, what it looked like was he was yelling at the local policemen for protecting the national policemen and being involved with the national police.
There's some...
but then someone shouted him down. Someone said, "Calm down, calma, tranquilo." I think my pronunciation's horrible, but like calm, like, you know, chill. And but that was as violent as it got. And someone threw a paper airplane.
Yeah. All right. So, any last thoughts? Because I'm gonna do a quick wrap up now. But
the last thoughts are, I really had no idea what I was getting into when I came here. When you see videos of balaclavaed policemen, when you see the riot police beating people in the streets, of course it happens in the U.S., don't get me wrong, but there were example after examples of them just initiating it completely, just whacking it, and that happens in the U.S. too, and it's bad. So I'm sure we can all just condemn riot police and police brutality in general, but the nuances here are very, very important, like they are in the U.S. So it's really important to do as much research as you can, talk to the Catalan people, talk to the Spanish nationalists if you can find any, and really get to the bottom of things. And,
you know, I guess that's the next step. So, all right, man. For those that are watching, first, let me just say that the reason this video was much lighter and more of a conversation is that I'm feeling a bit under the weather, and other than that, you know, with the general strike yesterday, the Catalonians are extremely organized. I filmed a ton of footage, but everything's so perfectly coordinated that everything's it's just perfectly planned out. You show up, you film, and then everyone shakes hands and they say, okay, everyone at 9, go home. There's no spontaneity of it, right? It's hard to present news when everything they plan happens as they plan it. But there's a few interesting things. There were text messages, WhatsApp messages going around. As soon as the Spanish nationalists came out, they said, everyone go home now, immediately. And sure enough, everyone started leaving. It is ridiculously organized. Now, they're expected to declare independence by, they said, do you know what they said? Monday, right?
So the president, the Catalan president is supposed to make an announcement tonight, Wednesday. Today it's Wednesday. And then
it's a couple hours.
Yeah, a couple hours from now. And then Monday they're supposed to the Madrid, the state, the country is supposed to announce whatever they're going to announce, declare independence.
And yeah, so needless to say, I think we all expect things to escalate because, you know, they're saying now that they might invoke what's called Article 155, where Spain will suspend the autonomous politics of Catalonia, basically rule from Madrid, and it's just we're headed down a dangerous path. You know, we all know how this goes. I've seen people commenting about how, you know, it starts with the police occupying the port. They're refusing to leave hotels. One thing leads to another, right? We come to a point where someone finally says leave or leave by force, and then we see the dramatic escalation. We've already seen the national police attacking people. So it's going to be interesting. I guess I'm going to be staying here at least until in the foreseeable future, I suppose. Now, they're saying they're going to declare independence by Monday. I think that's what we've heard so far. We'll know more as time goes on, but if I'm going to be here, there's no point in me leaving now. So we'll see what happens. I think I'm going to put together some more fun and interesting stories from Barcelona for tomorrow and the next day, unless something happens. Because I want to make sure I can present to you guys a good video about, you know, the city and what's happening. But stay tuned and follow me on Twitter because breaking news is bound to happen. We're in the midst, we're in the middle of a referendum for independence and the Declaration of Independence. Just think about, if you're an American, think about what the Declaration of Independence means to you. And imagine now that we're going to see the government here in Catalonia do something very similar. It's going to be massive. And honestly, as an American, as much as we hold the Declaration of Independence in such esteem, I'm really fascinated to be in a country as that happens. And I hope you would be interested in watching that too. So again, make sure to follow me on Twitter, comment below, and let me know what you think. Taylor, you're on YouTube.
Yep, Beacom of Light, youtube.com/Beacom of Light.
So B-E-A-C-O-M.
C-O-M is in Mary, very important.
Of Light.
Of Light.
And you have Twitter?
Yeah,
no,
I do.
You don't.
I have it. I'm just
what is it?
bad at using it. At Taylor Beacom.
Okay.
Simple as that.
All right. So we're both down here. I don't know what the plan is, but I'm gonna be here. And if nothing comes Monday, then I'll get out of here. But at least until then, know that should anything happen here on the ground, Catalonia, I'm on Twitter, and that's where you can find out. So if you want to support my work, make sure you go to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like, give nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every day at 4 p.m. And stay tuned for breaking news, live streams from around the world, currently in beautiful, now kind of dark, Barcelona. But I will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m.